Today we will start with coding and we will program the code for a few files. Therefore, I will start with simply coding the files. Then I will explain what the code actually does. And then I will pause and you have the possibility and the opportunity to then copy the code and the time you need. And I recommend that you simply pause the video at this point and then simply take your time. So it should be really stress-free. And for this course, I will make a structure so we will do one file at a time. And so it doesn't get confusing. We won't switch a lot. I will really program with you one file after the other. And this is possible because I prepared enough that we can simply have a simple structure to not get confused. You see many tutorials usually on YouTube where they first make a first version of all these files and then they implement a few changes, and it's a lot of jumping back and forth, and sometimes they correct themselves in the middle of explaining something, and this is really disturbing, I would say, the work and learning flow. So I wanted to improve this kind of flow and give you an opportunity to have a flow that I would prefer. Okay, so as you can see, we click here on persistence, and then we have a struct called PersistenceController. So we will simply change this up a little bit, and we will start with commenting. So this is the first thing that you can actually find out yourselves, that Google's simply what you have to do, that you can actually use a combination of letters to actually make an automatic command, and with a format that you prefer. I, for example, have this automatic command, mark, and so on, but I could also do it manually. Simply type it down, and then I would have the same. But this is something you should be able to figure out yourself, and this is a good practice because this is something you will need. After you followed my courses, you need to learn how to solve your own problems. Okay, then I will simply code and explain after that. Simply here a comment for the structure, second comment for the structure, then let container something like constant. I will explain this later in more detail with the context. Then a third mark, initialization load of the persistence store, and then we type in init in memory. Okay, container. And this is how you actually, this is very important. So here for name, you have to put in what you called your application. Therefore, you can simply look here on the top left, and you can see that I, for example, called it DHD. So we type in DHD. Okay. If in memory, open brackets. You can use these open brackets by using option and then type on 8 on your Mac, and then these will automatically be shown. Container dot, and you can also see then when I start with the open brackets, I usually follow up with an enter command, so I can directly have these closed brackets after them. Okay, so container point persistent store description. Second one, point first exclamation mark point URL equals URL file URL with path, and then we have to put in a string, and this string will be /def/null. So then we have this. Beneath this we have container, point, load persistent stores, completion handler, this is fine, open brackets, open brackets, yeah, and then here we put in store description, error in if let error equals error as ns error fatal error unresolved error. If you want to make a slash like this, you actually have to press Shift plus Option plus 7. Okay. And then you put in this arrow, comma, then again Shift Option 7, error.userinfo, and then close the bracket, and this should be fine. Okay, so one section to go. Preview, and then we go with static var preview, PersistenceController equals open brackets, let result equal PersistenceController in memories true, let view context equals results.container.viewContext. For in, we'll change this up. For in 0 to 10, this is simply the amount. This is like a for loop, and this is the amount of items that will be created for in. This is where you can see from 0 to 10. Open brackets, let new item equals item context view context, new item dot timestamp date. Okay, but we have much more than that, so we will add new item point main equals false, new item dot topic equals empty string, new item dot id equals uuid. Okay, then we have new item dot positive equals positive. Then we have new item dot amount equals minutes, new item dot progress, give it 1, new item dot ideal equals 1. Okay, I will explain this later. Okay, then do close brackets, do open brackets, try view context dot save, open brackets, close brackets catch, open brackets. Then we will simply delete the comments and say let ns error equals error as ns error, fatal error, unresolved error, ns error user info, return results. Okay, this is fine. Then we delete this. And this should be it. Cannot assign this. That makes sense. Okay, this should be fine. So basically we changed up the persistence controller to our needs. And you don't have to understand how this part works. The only thing that is important in this part is actually that you put in your application name for name. And the preview, it should resemble, like all of this, what we set here, should resemble what we actually declared in our CoreData. So these are nothing else than these attributes. And we simply set for all these attributes example data. And as you can see here, it states preview. So it means that usually if you load up for here, you can put in canvas or show editor only. Anyway, simply switch it up, go to content view, and then we have this kind of preview. And usually there's no preloaded data for the content view when it actually loads the CoreData files and images. There is usually no preloaded data when the application tries to load the items in CoreData. So what basically happens is that you can determine for the preview example items with the same format. What we do here, so we iterate over a specific amount which we declare here from 0 to 10, and these amount of items will be automatically created and then can be found in this preview for the content view when CoreData actually gets loaded. This is all that happens there, basically, nothing else. Okay, so now you have time to copy this code. It's finished, and we won't return to this file. And if there's an error, it's probably because of this area, because you didn't put in the name that you can find here.